It's a lovely part of England, made to look even lovelier when the blue skies are adorning it, and that's what's been happening all summer. This is Nottingham, home of Robin Hood, home of some lovely, lovely buildings in the centre of the city, the castles just to the fringe, and of course in the heart of the city is Trent Bridge, just by the river, with a brand new stand that now sits atop the main pavilion. This is the first of 3 ODIs, and we're going to bring all the analysis to you right here on Cricbuzz Live. Well, it's true, it is coming home, only not in the sense you know it. It's cricket, and cricket's coming home for England because they happen to be the home team. What's going to happen in the outcome? Well, that is a completely different matter altogether. We've been talking a little football, a little cricket here on Cricbuzz Live. And just in case you watched the last show, yes, it is going to be England and Belgium, only it's going to be on the Saturday. Just in case you wanted to know, but we won't talk about who said what. Instead, let's welcome a brand new guest on the show to join Bhattacharya and Zaheer Khan is a hardcore Croatia supporter and my namesake. Welcome, Gautam Gambhir.
Pleasure.
Great to have you here and great to see blue skies. How often have you been in England and seen so much of blue up in the sky?
Not much, to be honest. I think most of the summer when it's in England, still obviously it's pretty much it rains every second or third day. The last time when I toured there, obviously it was not the same summer which it is right now.
But really, I know we've talked a lot about it in the T20 series. They're calling it an Indian summer, but it's not just because of the weather and the heat and the blue skies. It's the brand of cricket India are playing now.
No, absolutely. I think they've played this kind of cricket for quite a while now. It's not that they've played this kind of cricket here. I think, and the wickets suit them as well. I think they've got that kind of a batting where if it's flat, they can really hurt the opposition.
So it's good to have him in the studio. Did you know the side of him, this hardcore football supporter and discerning enough to be supporting Croatia from the beginning?
Well, with Gautam, one thing remains common, which is passion. His passion for sports is just right up there. Be it hockey, football, I think tennis, any sport you name it, and he will know what's happening in the world of sport.
Okay, I won't get into tennis for the moment because I suspect maybe you might have a leaning towards a certain Mr. Federer.
No, I'm a big Djokovic fan.
Ah, okay, so he's got that right as well. Here I was just trying to find a little weakness in the armory there, but I didn't find one. So we're looking forward to that. Joy, again, this should be 50 over cricket. Looking forward to the World Cup, and that's what Virat Kohli has been saying.
Absolutely, but before that I want to tell that the most interesting debates that we used to ever have in KKR was when the Real Madrid fans led by Gautam and I think Jaydev, all these were on his side, and the other side was Manoj Tiwari, Shakib Al Hasan, all the Barcelona fans. And that debate, when there was at least thrice I've seen there's been
absolutely.
A derby, and a La Liga derby is a thing to watch. You should see KKR then. So if you want to see passion, either watch him in the middle or watch him watching a Madrid derby.
Wow, El Clasico. I know who I'm watching my next El Clasico with. But yeah, coming back to the cricket.
Firstly, I'm really happy to see so many record holders out there in the ground. Virat Kohli, one of the greatest batsmen ever. Owen Morgan has just become the highest scorer for England in one-day internationals. But David Boone out there holds the best record, I think. 53 beers in a single flight between Sydney and England.
I knew that was coming.
Was it 53? Well, I thought he crossed 60.
No. It was claimed that he had 52 beers. Jeff Lawson was a sort of pacekeeper till 23 and then he fell asleep. Then they had somebody else sort of give him company for a while. When Merv Hughes was told this story, he said that, he's supposed to have had 52 beers. Is it true? He says, absolute rubbish. It was 53, So, great to see. This is the kind of conditions where they can go out and do a lot of stuff. But, all record holders out there, we should have a few more records today.
Not to mention, if you add to the 3 gentlemen, the biggest record holder, I think, is that surface, Trent Bridge. Just recently, we've had a match out there where 480 plus was scored. That's ridiculous. That's not even a record. Let's try and focus on the match at hand today. It's India versus England. Let's have a look at the Indian lineup. Because as we said during the 3 T20 internationals, that it's going to be pretty much the same nucleus of the squad, and this is proof of that. Pretty much an identical lineup. The only difference being, of course, we've got the secondary spinner coming back into the 11 in Kuldeep Yadav, and the injury to Bhuvaneshwar Kumar means a first cap for Siddharth Kaul. How do you look at that lineup? Again, ODIs T20s have almost become one.
Look, probably I would have had Dinesh Karthik in place of Suresh Raina. I think the kind of form he's in, I would have picked him in the 50 over format. Obviously, Suresh Raina is little bit more destructive in the T20 format, but I would not have picked Suresh Raina. I would have gone with Dinesh Karthik. It gives you more solidity, it gives you more options, to be honest. He's a much better overall player when it comes to spin and fast bowling, and he can be very destructive in the later half of the inning as well.
Yeah, he speaks his mind. That's an interesting point over there. Do you think it's just Suresh Raina just be given a longer rope? Maybe here's one more try for you in the 50-over format?
They're trying for sure. I think that number 5 position is so crucial. In ODI format. If you look at most of the teams approaching the game now, at 30-over mark they look to have wickets in hand. And then look at it as a 20-over game, and that power play when it's coming towards the end of that second power play, that's where you need to up the ante and probably put the foot on the accelerator, and that's where Suresh Raina can be vital. So that run which Suresh Raina is getting right now is because of that key position. It'll be interesting to see though, because he's not really been batting at that position. Like number 3 is where he's been enjoying, and most of his big scores have come at that position. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly he adapts to this role.
And sorry, one more thing. I think once Kedar Jadhav gets fit, whether they're going to give Suresh Raina a go ahead of Kedar Jadhav will be a massive point, because Kedar Jadhav can chip in with a couple of overs as well, unless and until they're looking at Suresh Raina as the 6th bowler. As I just mentioned, if as a pure batter, I would have gone with Dinesh Karthik.
Interesting point there, because one thing we see over there at the moment is we've got 5 bowlers and there's no one really to turn to if somebody gets hit.
No, that's absolutely true. And just coming back to the Dinesh Karthik point, the other thing is that you have three of the top 10 ICC rated batsmen are there in that lineup already. Your big issue is that if Dhoni wants to bat up a bit more, the only real finisher you have is Hardik. And Suresh Raina is by nature not a finisher. He's a number 3, not a finisher. So if you're going to move the batting order around a bit, then Dinesh is a far better, because he fits into more slots than a Suresh Raina does in that sense. I mean, so definitely that's a fair point out there, and it'll be interesting to see how long a run he gets, how long a rope he gets this season, and that's the big issue.
We were talking a lot about the road to 2019. Now, we've got to keep our eyes on how many matches each team has, and I think it's worth having a look at this as well in terms of the number of matches. If you have a look at the different opponents, of course, after England, there's going to be the Asia Cup, the West Indies, Australia, New Zealand, and Australia. So, you're looking at a maximum of 6 games, depending on how you perform. This is really the time, if you're looking at 12 months, fair enough period to say that you should have a settled lineup by now?
Look,
Maybe a settled 15?
Look, I'm not of a strong believer that we need to think about World Cup from now on. We got to start winning. The only way you can get that confidence going into the World Cup is by winning, not by experimenting. The point is that people keep talking about that World Cup is just in a year away and all that stuff. We need to have a settled unit and stuff. Personally, I feel that it's all about staying in the present and trying and winning each and every game possible, because that is what's going to get your confidence going into the World Cup rather than keep experimenting.
But what about the plan? When you talk about planning, yes, agreed. Look, winning comes, but planning leads to winning.
Look, a lot depends on what kind of a form an individual is in as well. It's not about that if you start setting from now on. It really depends closer to the World Cup what kind of a form people would be in. Look at Ambati Rayudu right now. No one was thinking that he's going to be on the tour to England, and just because he had an unbelievable IPL, he was part of the first playing 11 as well. And World Cup is right after the IPL, so a lot would depend during the IPL as well. Who is batting in what kind of form is he in, and what kind of a position are you looking for as well. So rather than talking about the World Cup from now on, it is important to just think about winning each and every series and each and every game, and take it on from there on.
Interesting point, because all this time there has been a point when T20 cricket was almost looked at as his stepsister. Let's not use that to influence selection in longer formats. But now we are seeing a similar 11 for T20 and 50-over cricket. And as Gautam just mentioned, so close to the World Cup, you might just have something, an X factor blossoming there. Form-wise,
for every player, to play all the formats is what they have on their mind all the time. Whether they get selected, not get selected, whether they get a go ahead, that's a different story. But as an individual, when you're preparing for something, you're always thinking of playing all the formats. And right now, most of the players are picking themselves up, and that's why you are seeing this healthy competition, and the playing 11 is always decided by form and performance, and most of the individuals in this team and the team management, even the planning of the World Cup has already started. Yes, nucleus of the team is going to remain the same. Like you will have likes of Virat, likes of KL Rahul, likes of Rohit Sharma, MS Dhoni. They all are there unless there is some injury. But they will be thinking about the World Cup for sure, and the talks and the management's planning in terms of by and large, what should be the combination. There will be, I think, probably just a couple of spots which they will be kind of thinking of approaching in a different manner, which Virat was very vocal about during his press conferences about the middle order slots. And this tour, that's why it's very vital, because it's a similar kind of condition. So even though World Cup is about a year away, this is a good tour to kind of analyze and assess different players also, how they're responding to the conditions.
Very good point there, and we of course did hear from Virat Kohli at the start of the series. He talked about the experimentation, he talked about the middle order in particular. One man who'll always be in the focus of any discussion that has to do with batting order is Rohit Sharma. Up, down, up, down. It's not always his call. Let's hear from Rohit Sharma.
Yeah, see, speaking of Rahul batting at 3 or 4, I don't know actually where he's going to bat in the ODIs. Certainly, he's been in a great form, so we got to see tomorrow where actually he bats. But it'll be at number 3 or 4. I don't know where captain wants to bat. That is the most important question there.
Yeah, so he makes an interesting point there, because of course the captain first needs to slot himself in, and then the likes of Rohit himself and Rahul get slotted in. Now, I can see you smiling there already.
Because I'm not a big believer in all this debate about batting slots. I think a good player would be able to bat anywhere in the top 6 or 7. Because if you're a good player, you're a good player against fast bowling, you're a good player against spin bowling as well. There has been so many instances when Australia used to dominate world cricket, especially in the one-day format. There used to be Damon Martin. He was always a middle order batsman. He used to open in one-day cricket as well. Adam Gilchrist batted at number 7, then opened in one-day cricket. There was only Ricky Ponting and probably Matthew Hayden who had a fixed batting position, but everyone else just batted in different positions. So all this debate about who wants to bat where, I think is just very overrated and exaggerated, to be honest. I think it's about where the team management wants you to bat. You should be putting your hand up and say that yes, I'm ready to do that. Ultimately, it's about winning and contributing wherever you bat.
Sound familiar? You've heard this
I've
before?
heard
But there's nothing wrong in it. Because
No, I love that.
Look, you get yourself picked in a playing 11. Your first job is to get yourself picked in the playing 11, and then it depends on the captain and the team management where they want you to bat. There has been times when I've opened the batting, batted at 3, batted at 4, and at times I haven't even batted. I remember in New Zealand, I padded up to bat at number 3, but there was a great opening partnership and I never batted in that innings. So you should be absolutely fine with it. In a team sport, it's not about individuals, to be honest.
Makes a good point.
Absolutely, I think that's what team sport is all about, and you have to also consider the current form, and right now KL Rahul has been pushing everyone around in that top order, and that's why this debate has come in, and it's actually a very healthy debate, because that's these kind of headaches are always good for team management. When you have a lot of players making use of opportunities and creating that environment where no one is settled, so ultimately you are going to get the results which this Indian team has been producing, because every individual in this team knows that every inning counts, and every opportunity which they get, they have to make the most of it, and they have to sustain at that level, and that's something which is very important for a team to keep raising the bar.
But I'm going to throw one more at you before we actually hear from Harsha from Nottingham. I know you've mentioned it, a debate about where you should bat. But when the whole thing, say for example of Sachin opening the batting came, or a lot of players saying that whoever's in the best form or the best player must get the maximum number of deliveries. Do you agree with that?
Whoever is in the best form, not the best player.
The best form, fair enough.
The best form makes the best player, not the best player makes the best form.
There's a quotable quote, the best form makes the best player, and that's certainly something we've got to go with. And I think picking up from what Zaheer just said about KL Rahul, that makes a lot of sense. When he's in that purple patch, you need to make him get up there and start scoring the runs. Well, we did promise you going centre stage, and let's head out there and hear from on very similar issues from Harsha Bhogle.
Absolutely. Here we have Virat Kohli, the world's best number 3 in white ball cricket. and India have nobody at number 4. India have tried all kinds of people. It's peculiar that in such a powerful batting lineup, we can't pin down number 4. A football analogy will probably explain that better. This is football time in a big football country. You've got your gun centre forward, the best in the world. He can also play on the wings, but there's another guy who can't play on the wing, but he's decent enough centre forward. What do? Do you say, sorry, my main goal scorer plays in the position that he is happiest in? Or do you say, let me look at the combination, an average winger and a gun centre forward versus a very decent centre forward and an equally good winger? So I think that is what India is going through. Virat Kohli can bat 3 and 4, India don't have a number 4. But I actually believe if KL Rahul continues his form, and you have to play KL Rahul today, then you have Dhawan, Rohit, and if you have Kohli controlling the end, even if Kohli bats 35 overs, he can still get 100 from there and still control the end. And the more powerful Kohli, compared to 3 or 4 years ago where he couldn't hit the big sixes, is now hitting them at will. I actually, in a 50-over game, I don't mind Virat Kohli at number 4. That might well be the last link in the batting puzzle that India have before the World Cup.
To absolutely love that. This is Harsha Bhogle 2.0, as we always said. Since 2006, who would imagine he'd come out with footballing analogies? But I reckon when he's talking about striker and the next midfielder, he's probably talking about Modric and Perisic and not about Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling.
No, he's not, and you've got the right audience to discuss Modric and Perisic as well. It's a good time to discuss it. No, but interesting. I mean, I just, what Harsha is saying, one of the things that he's talking about, good players in bad positions, or do you play your best player in your best position? I think that's one debate. The other debate is, at any World Cup or any championship side, you'll see people are in different evolutionary curves. So if you look at our 2011, World Cup winning team, you had some players who were at the peak of their ability at that point in time. Gautam, they were at their peak. There were some who just, Sachin is just at the, now starting to tail out. And then there are boys like Virat who's just coming in. So you have a very balanced side. You have a side of youth, experience. I think what they're trying to do is get that sort of blend right. And see, again, I don't know who when you say management now, I think it's really, you have to say it's Ravi Shastri and Virat who are, calling it. Maybe with, say, Dhoni and all. But I think together their minds are trying to get together what that mix is, and I think they'll try more to experiment in England than anywhere else, because I think after this the conditions will be very different. I don't think it will suit that much experimentation.
Well, we can keep talking about this. I was going to say till the cows come home, till football comes home. But let's move on to England for the moment. And remember, we might be underestimating them, we might be focusing on India, we might be looking at the strengths of India, but they happen to be the number 1 side in the world at the moment. You may not focus too much on rankings, but the fact is England have been playing like a number 1 side of late. I mean, you don't just make 480, never mind who the opposition was that day.
No, the opposition wasn't Bangladesh or Ireland. I think it was Australia. So we got to consider.
Well,
if you look at the ranking, you might get completely different.
We've been enjoying that joke for a while now about Australia. कभी chance तो मिलता नहीं था, तो अभी थोड़ा chance मिल रहा है आजकल.
Yeah, they've gone completely the other way. They've just gone with all the stroke players. They've given everyone the freedom to go out there and just express themselves. Normally, it doesn't happen in a lot of teams. Normally, there are explosive batters at the top, and then your number 3 and number 4 are probably players who got to just accumulate runs, and then you'll have finishers as well. But if you see England, they've just got firepower throughout their entire batting lineup, except I think Joe Root who bats at 3. If you see, everyone else is a stroke player who can just be very, very destructive.
Yes, we talked a lot about this during the T20 series, about their batting order, the depth of the batting order, the likes of Moeen Ali, David Willey coming down the order, Adil Rashid with 10 first-class hundreds. So it really has some depth over there. And even with Alex Hales missing in this lineup, it still looks lethal.
Absolutely, I think that's another team which has got the similar kind of headaches to what Indian team has. The problems of plenty and good players. So Root coming in is going to be a big boost, because it's not a T20 format. You in this format you need partnerships, you need wicket in hand. The approach which we've seen from English side in T20 internationals, which was just about making sure that they're putting the pressure on the bowlers right from the word go. You might not see that kind of approach in ODIs, because in ODIs you do need partnerships. You need to be cautious, and the 2 wrist spinners which India has. It will be interesting to see how England is dealing with them in a longer format. I mean, when I'm saying longer, format is relatively
overs, yeah.
longer compared to 20 overs, because you have 20 overs of wrist spin. I think, you know, how England tackles that 20 overs of wrist spin is going to determine the outcome of the target India will be chasing.
And one person I think who's going to be key to that is going to be Joe Root. Owen Morgan was very diplomatic at the toss when asked about him. Did he get fired up after getting dropped? And he said, well, he's fired up anyway, sort of like the gentleman next to me. But let's have a look at... What?
I'm not fired up at all.
Not now. Get the
Not in
pads
the
on, get a
studios.
bat in hand.
He will never be fired up in the studios. You know, give him some cricket gear and he'll be
Exactly,
there.
that's what I meant. That's what I meant. So with Joe Root, I mean, yes, they were talking about him having missed out on a particular game, but have a look at this. Since April the 1st, 2015, topping the list for England with hundreds and 50s.
He's the only English batsman in the top 10. Right now, 4 of the players playing this match are among the top 10 batsmen. So you have Shikhar Dhawan, you have Virat Kohli, you have Rohit Sharma, and you have Joe Root. I mean, leave aside Joss Butler's incendiary form right now. Joe Root is a man who's been bringing it home for England all of this year. Really.
He certainly has, and when you look at that, you kind of forget, you know, we obviously get used to T20 cricket, you're talking about the 150 plus strike rates. But with Joe Root, even if you think of a 120, 125, when you're scoring those big runs, occupying that large part of the innings, that's when he becomes such an asset to England.
I reckon England won Joe Root more than England won Alex Hales with a 50 over format, because there would be times when you would want someone batting at 3 who could bat deep and who can try and take the team along so that the entire batting can play around him, and especially against quality opposition. Joe Root is a better player of spin bowling as compared to Alex Hales. Obviously, Alex Hales is a better T20 player, but England needs Joe Root much more than Alex Hales.
Yes, and what about the venue itself? I know we briefly mentioned this once on the show. This is the very venue where we saw that record-breaking score. We're not going to make any more Australia jokes, I promise, or we'll try not to anyway. But it was, in fact, the fact that England did put those runs on. What does our man centre stage have to think about Trent Bridge as the venue?
It's a tricky one. Before you came here, who were your 2 best seam new ball death bowlers? Bhuvneshwar Kumar unlikely to play, Jasprit Bumrah surely not playing. So your key bowlers in the back 10 are now suddenly not available to you. But India have something that Australia did not have. They have bowlers with the ability to move the ball off the straight. Australia had medium pacers, they were bowling straight. I was watching someone like AJ Tye, absolutely straight. Nothing was moving. Kane Richardson straight, Ashton Agar straight. And so the English batsmen were picking the line in great form, and they were socking it to the Aussies like the Aussies have done to them. India have 2 bowlers who move the ball off the straight, and they've got good old-fashioned swing bowlers. So I'll be very, very surprised if we have those kind of runs, even though I strongly believe that Trent Bridge as a ground is participating in making bowlers extinct. But I think it also depends on the bowlers. If there's a breeze blowing, since the new stands have come up here, the ball swings a little bit more. So I'll be very surprised if that happens.
Yes. Well, we may not necessarily talk about those records, but well, Trent Bridge is the ground where it happened. The pitch may not have changed too much. I think the only factor that has changed, in fact, is the opposition, and in particular those 2 spinners. But let's not harp too much about it for the moment. We've got one more very important factor to get through, and how tough a question are you going to start us with on the joy factor at the start of the ODI series?
Given that Gautam's here, I'm going to put in a nice good length delivery. No, good length delivery. Not a very tough delivery, good length delivery. But it's relevant to a lot of the conversation that's happened. Take a look. It's an interesting one. Take a look. So this is a very select group of 12 people in one-day internationals. The last one to joined less than a month back. The first one to become a member of this group was in 1983. And his feat is not as impressive as the rest for some reason. 2 Indians are a part of this group currently. What are we talking about? I can only give you one hint. Gautam, you want to give the hint?
What, does Trent Bridge have anything to do with it?
So yeah, the last member of the group joined in this very ground. That's a hint.
Interesting. Answers have already started.
Okay, I have one more question. No,
don't give any more.
It's not a group that Zaheer Khan would particularly like.
You're giving too many things away.
That's all.
Just ignore he said that.
Okay.
None of you heard that. None of you heard that. This is joy at his lenient best. It's not a side of him that we see. It must be after the football last night. So we'll try and avoid that. Okay, I think we've got just about time to get in a few predictions. Let's see how our newest member is going to fare over here, because I can tell you in a T20 series we did absolutely terribly. We were way off the mark almost every single time. So just a simple prediction 50 over score for England here.
350.
350.
I'll go 300, I think. 295 to 300 is...
Okay, I can see
yeah.
Kuldeep and Chahal playing
Yeah.
a part already.
In for a penny, in for a pound. 285. Hell, they'll play him out.
Oh, going even less. Should I even head towards the other side?
Go in between and you've got a great advantage. You go 325, you've got a great...
Yeah, let me be diplomatic and go 325 since I've been doing so well in the other sport. Let me see maybe if I can start learning a bit of cricket on this show on Cricbuzz Live. But that's just as far as predictions go. We've started the discussion on that number 4 slot, or should we even be talking about that slot? But one thing we've learned from this show is that form means everything. Will we see form come into play in the next 50 overs? We'll come back and discuss that on Cricbuzz Live.